Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you all for tuning in. Got another episode tonight of Tales of the Collection. I'm going to go over 5 CDs for my collection and kind of share how I came to get them. So, as you can see in the intro, I picked 5 CDs randomly off my shelf. These were the 5 CDs I selected. First up, Blondie's Eat to the Beat. I love this album. I really do. I picked up a vinyl record from Blondie, a greatest hits from Goodwill one time on a whim, because I was familiar with a bunch of their hits, and I thought, you know, maybe this is something that I'll get into. Maybe it won't be, but you know, for $1 at Goodwill, it's worth the chance. So I got it. First song on it was Heart of Glass, which I already knew and I already loved. Second song was Dreaming. Never heard it before, and my jaw dropped when I heard it. It was just like the perfect Blondie new wave pop punk song, whatever you want to call it. It was fantastic. Debbie's voice totally worked. I love the melody of it. I love the bridge. Bridge is fantastic. Everything, the drumming. It was just, I couldn't get past it. That turned me into a Blondie fan, actually. And I like the rest of that CD, or the rest of that record as well. So, I started getting into Blondie and listening to a bunch of their stuff on my phone while I was at work and wanting to collect their albums. So I kept my eyes peeled for Blondie albums everywhere I went. I did pass up on this at one point at the record store. I don't remember why I passed up on it. I probably wasn't like quite into like a Blondie craze at that point. I was probably like slowly starting to get into wanting to collect them. And there's probably something else that I bought there that was a little higher on my list that I put this one back for. But darn did I regret that, because when I got to listen to this album, I fell in love with it just about immediately. And the hell of it is, I mentioned in my last video, one time there was like 300 rock vinyl records that came in at Goodwill. And one of them, I was sorting through them. I worked there, by the way. So I'm sorting through them and trying to mentally take note of what it is we just got so that I can buy them when I go off the clock, which we're not allowed to hold stuff for ourselves. You know, we gotta actually be fair about it and put them out. I can't hold the stuff in the back and buy it. Like it actually has to go out, and other people actually have the chance to take it. So there's always a little bit of a holding your breath whenever something like that comes in that you want. But there was like 300 of them, and I'm sifting through them and putting them out, and there's just a whole bunch of great stuff. Genesis, gosh, Beatles, Zeppelin. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. I don't know how many times you people out there go to Goodwill, but around here, any thrift store around here that you ever go to, it's like always old country, big band, Christmas. You don't just get 300 freaking rock albums on vinyl every day. So like I don't know, that freaking made my day. I swear to God though, like the last handful of albums that I was going through, I had them all in this big bin. I'm pulling them out, just sifting through them, making sure they're not terribly like too damaged or whatever, and putting them where they go so that they can go out on the floor. And I swear the last handful that I grabbed, it was right there. I'm like, holy shit, I have got to make sure I get that somehow. And I held on. It held on. I put them out, and then when my shift ended that day or the next day, whenever they went out, I was able to pick it up. So I then ordered it on CD so that I could have it in the car as well, because I love it. This is one of my favorite albums of all time, actually. I love it that much. So not often that something like that happens, where it just so happens to the album that you want the most, especially after passing up on it once, just so happens to come perfectly across your path again. But there you have it. Blondie's Eat to the Beat. This one we're going way back. Kiss Rock and Roll Over. For one, I specifically remember buying this with Hotter Than Hell, and I forever have those two albums linked in my mind. They're both kind of like the yellowish, orangish albums of those classic Kiss ones, and I bought them together, so I always think of them together. But I'm pretty sure I bought a lot of Kiss CDs at Circuit City back in the day. That was like the best place to get them. They were cheaper than Best Buy. And whenever my family would go to State College, they didn't have a FYE there, or the Wall, or whatever it was at that point in time. So we would tend to go to State College more on the weekends at that point in time than we would to anywhere else around here. So after we would go out to eat with like my uncle and my aunt, then we would go to Target, sometimes stop at Circuit City, and that's when I bought a lot of CDs. I bought this one and Harder Than Hell at the same time. Love them both. Classic Kiss albums. I've always loved that design on the CD too. Like, not only is that a cool album cover, but that blue and red kind of chainsaw thing on the actual CD. That's got like one of my favorite Kiss CD designs. So, super cool. But yeah, I was like 12 when I got them. So, don't have like any more details to that story, but I do remember buying them. Another one we're going back for is Van Halen's 1984. So I was hardcore Van Halen at this point. We're in 2003. I own 4 Van Halen albums plus the greatest hits at this point. It was the first one, 5150, Fair Warning, and Diver Down. And we went to, it was like around Memorial Day weekend, give or take a week. Wasn't quite out of school yet, and I was in 7th grade at the time. Wasn't quite out of school. But one weekend we go to State College and go to Old Circuit City. Dang, do I miss that place. They had a lot of good CDs. They were like the best prices too. They were cheaper than anywhere else you could buy CDs in State College. So I picked this one up along with For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge and loved it, as is the case with like all the Roth albums that I bought. I had not yet heard Hot for Teacher at this point. I'd only heard Jump in Panama, and then Hot for Teacher just sort of blew my mind when I heard it. It was freaking amazing. Great album. Great album, 1984. Took it home, played the crap out of it. For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge too, I played that one a lot, but every time I got a Van Halen album back in, man, you can bet that for a good solid week I played the absolute crap out of it. 1984 was no different. Led Zeppelin 4. So I actually never owned this one for like the longest time. I always liked and respected Led Zeppelin, but I never got into Led Zeppelin until like 3 years ago. That's when I really started to dig into their albums and realize this band's about as freaking great as everyone does make them out to be. They're amazing. And they're more than just the radio hits. Like, their albums are fantastic. But I knew like every song on this album. Who doesn't? I think the only one I didn't know was 4 Sticks. But Black Dog, Rock and Roll, Battle of Evermore, Stairway to Heaven, Misty Mountain Hop, Going to California, When the Levee Breaks. You hear them on the radio all the time, and they're all great. But at my favorite record store, he happened to get a bunch of Led Zeppelin CDs in it once. I already had this on vinyl. I bought this on vinyl twice, actually. I have 2 copies of it, an old one and a newer one. One I bought at a bookstore at the mall, and the other one I bought at Goodwill when all those albums came in. That was another one of my pickups from that collection. Then, of course, I bought this with almost every Zeppelin CD. I bought, like, this one, 2, 3, Houses of the Holy, and Physical Graffiti. I think Into the Outdoor I bought all at once because they all came at the record store, and I picked them all up because I had to have them. I put off on adding Zeppelin to my collection long enough. So that was like 3 years ago at this point, 2-3 years ago. But yeah, Zeppelin 4, fantastic stuff right there. Gosh, it's been like 3 weeks since I've been sick now, and I still have this cough, but I only have it at night, and it's kind of annoying. But Beatles Hard Day's Night. This is another one that's relatively new to my collection, and much like Led Zeppelin, I actually used to not like the Beatles when I was younger. I don't know. I don't even know why I didn't like the Beatles, to be honest with you. I think it's just because I heard everyone rants and raves about the Beatles, and it's just like, yeah, the Beatles, whatever. But as I, started to understand who the Beatles are and what songs they sang and what influence and impact they had on so many artists and so many bands, I began to respect and appreciate the Beatles pretty quickly. But much like Led Zeppelin, it took me a while until I actually really dove into the majority of their collection and their deeper cuts and their albums and whatnot. But I was at FYE 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was, and they had this one. As you can see, it's got that little FYE used sticker there in the corner. So I bought it there. So I was just into collecting all the Beatles albums at that point in time. And honestly, FYE is a freaking joke anymore, but every now and then you get something there worth buying. So that's where this one came from. It came from FYE recently, so nothing, not too exciting of a tale there, but there you have it. If you like this kind of content, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, drop any comments below on your tales getting any of these 5 albums that I mentioned right here, or any other albums that you feel like bringing up. Man, I think it'd be an interesting read. I love getting comments. So I guess I'll catch you all in the next video. Take care.